This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. This is episode 33. Well, I've enjoyed doing podcasts here and there from the facility, but I can't wait to get back to the normal environment with my main man ChezdotSantana as he produces the show for me the way I need to do it in the confines of an office space. I've had to switch a lot of things around because with the schedule in the summer, I always say I'm going to figure out a way to work less, but it doesn't happen. I end up working more, and I've been in here a lot because, you know, with this heat dome that we've had where the temperature has been really, really hot, in order to try to keep the place somewhat cool, I come in early, turn on everything, try to get it cooled down and leave things on. And then if I don't have any other trainings, then maybe I go back home and then come back. So it's a big difference. So I don't think people really understand how much time I'm putting to combat it where I'm coming in, because if I don't come in the morning and I wait till, let's say I got a training at 5 or somebody has a training at 5 and they come in at 4:30, man, it is like extremely hot and it would take forever to cool down. So doing it this way, at least it's somewhat cooler, and I've had to limit the trainings that we've had to make sure that I'm not, you know, that everybody's somewhat comfortable. It's still warm in here, and, you know, it's not much I can do with what we have, but I have taken steps. But in any case, as much as I love being here in the summer, yes, I'm not. It's a little bit too hot for what I want to do. So next week I should be back to where it is. So I hope everybody's having, you know, I hope they're staying cool. I know there's been a lot with the heat. I know there's, you know, I was joking, thinking the other day, like, I wonder if the people that say, oh, there's no climate change, they're just making that up, or if they're feeling different about this record weather we're having. I'm not saying that what they're saying is climate change is not the reason. It's just fueling it to make it worse. And if you don't believe that, then I don't really know if you would believe anything. But, you know, all these historical records, you know, it's way too hot. It's way too hot. And it's not just too hot, it's too hot too long, right? So, but, you know, I don't want to get into some big debate on it. I've always thought, you know, the planet shifts. I mean, the planet is over so many million years of old, so I'm sure that there are, you know, times where it's a lot hotter, but I think that something that we're doing is adding to it. It has to. There's no way that it couldn't add to it. But kind of leads me to a question. You know, I have people on my Facebook that are you know, friends and stuff. I comment on, you know, go, you know, hey, how you doing, that kind of stuff, like their posts. I have some people that are what we call flat earthers. And, you know, when I'm looking at some of the posts, it's kind of odd. And here's why I'll say it's odd, because the ones that are flat earthers, all of the comments, all of the pictures, and all of the stuff that they're putting out there to discredit that the world is, you know, round as what it is, it's always that. But I would love to see not a illustration, but an actual, you know, photograph of, you know, the world being flat, as they say, because I'm trying to understand. I don't want to sound like I'm ridiculing. I want to make sure I understand it. So it's like, if you if you say there are no UFOs, UFOs don't exist at all, right? And then somebody says, well, here's something that can't be explained. If you still say, oh, that's just something, then that's usually okay. You don't want to believe it. There now it's been disputed that we actually went on the moon, right? But there's a picture from the moon to the Earth. Whether it's true or not, okay. But at least it looks like a photograph, right? When you're watching the Earth from the satellites, when the astronauts are up there, you're seeing the Earth. It looks round. Now, whether it's CGI, because Flat Earth's like, oh, that ain't happening. They're just making it up, right? Okay, that's fine. But I've never had a flat earther, get up in a ship and fly and be like, see, I told you, look at the Earth. It's not, it's not round, it's flat. My biggest question has always been, like, I've seen some drawings where it looked like a flat surface, you have all the continents and stuff, and then there's an edge. So my question has always been, if there's an edge, is the water being kept from going over? Because I've actually seen an illustration where the water's going over. It's like, well, if the water's going over, where does it go? Does it, does gravity pull it back around? How does it end up back? Because if not, at some point, we're not producing as much water as it is going over the edge. At some point, there shouldn't be any water, right? Or at some point, there should be a video of somebody, piloting a boat and gets to the edge and is like, oh, we got to go back because if we go, we're going to fall off the surface of the Earth. So I would really like somebody to explain it to me, and not just explain why and give me an actual visual, as opposed to trying to discredit what other people have long standing evidence or whatever say to the contrary, saying that it happens. It's kind of funny when you see people who are flat earthers argue with people who say the Earth is round. It's funny because all they do is they're pointing to this video. Did you hear this person? But then you don't know, like, okay, well, who is this person? Like, what did he do? Where did he go? Where is his evidence? Like, I'm evidence based. I'll give you an example. I had a kid. One of the kids is like, hey, I tested my vertical. I jumped. I'm at 9 inches. I increased my vertical 9 inches. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. But I need video evidence. I need to test your vertical. I need to see it with my eyes, right, for me to believe it. So I'm always trying to do the test. Or had a kid who wanted to do a between the legs dunk. And he came to me to do the Vertimax so he could get enough air under his body and enough, stability to do it. And he's like, Coach, I did. And I was like, that's good. But I need to see a video. So I want to see a video. So I'm just saying, show me something that's not, because I've seen some charts and some things that they say, well, if the Earth wasn't flat, this, and this. And I don't really understand it. So I would need somebody to break it down. But I don't know if I would believe it. I have an open mind, but I don't know. It's like, so, but it's weird when you talk about certain things. So, like, there are certain things you probably never gonna hear me talk about on the show. Probably never gonna talk about politics. Probably never gonna talk about religion, and maybe about this, because I might get a whole bunch of hate mail like, man, I can't believe you up there discrediting us and talking bad about us, and you're one of those, you're just a sheep and stuff. And I'm like, no, I honestly want to see it. That's all. I want to see it. Nobody coming on showing me some video of some dude who's said something that he did some trick or whatever. No. Show me a photograph. A real life portrait. Get on a video, get on a boat or a plane, fly to it, FaceTime me and say, look, Kay, see, we can't go no further, man. This is it. Right? If we keep going, we're going to fall off and we're going to lose. We're going to be in outer space or whatever. So that's kind of how it is. It's just kind of funny with those. But, oh, man. All right, so let me let me move into this next subject. I'm starting to wonder if there is a such thing as a ghetto tournament. Now, what do I mean by ghetto tournament? A ghetto tournament, in my opinion, is a poorly run event, a poorly run sports event that is unorganized, doesn't have quality officials for it. The people taking score are ill-equipped to enforce the rules and make sure everything is taken care of. The person who's running it is not abiding by the rules that they set for it. They're charging an insane amount of money, and they don't have adequate security. Those are a recipe for a ghetto tournament to me. And basically what I'm saying is you got to have, if you want to, look, anybody can come in and put up one event, take all the money and run. But then nobody's going to come back to your event. If you want to have the event run the way it's supposed to, you need to run quality events. You need to make sure you have it properly staffed. You need to have competent people who are refereeing, competent people who are scorekeeping. You need to have competent rules, and you need to abide by the rules. I heard of a tournament where it was an 8th grade tournament where there was a kid who might have been, I think, almost 17 years old. The kid drove to the game. And what they did is they held the kid back so the kid was allowed to be in the 8th grade and play. The kid was big and tall as it was. How do you allow that? You need to have language in there. If you're holding your kid back, that's fine. But if your kid is 17, he's not playing in the 7th grade division. He's got to play in the division at 17. That's just how it is. If you're not, okay with it, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to participate. My view is simple. If you run it correctly, you might have some people that complain, but even if they complain, you're going to have, they're either going to fall in line or you're going to have somebody come in. People want well-run events, leagues. They want a schedule. They want to know that where they playing in 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously, in tournaments, you get the pool play, and then you don't know how you're going to be in the bracket. But once they put the bracket up, you know what times and where you play if you keep winning. You don't have to play that game and then go to the tournament director and they say, oh, okay, all right, so we're going to move you up here. You're going to play right now you're finna play. No, you put it out there. You have adequate security so you know that people are going to be safe. Nobody wants to bring their kids, their family members, grandparents, uncles and stuff to a game, and now they have to scatter and run because somebody's acting a fool. It happened in another tournament up in Denver. One of my clients' message said, you were the first person that came to mind with what you were saying. They'll probably never go back to that. Because with stuff going on, it's like mass shootings. How can you not understand that a small fight breaking out to a brawl can traumatize somebody who's not even in that gym with people running out thinking, oh my God, somebody could be shooting and panicking? It's not that serious. Moms, dads, grandmas, males, females, it's not that serious. A 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, or 8th grade, hell, up to 10th grade. You're not playing in the NBA tomorrow. There's no NBA scouts watching you. Enjoy the game. If your kids are making mistakes, then look at film and go with it. If the coach, if the referee is not, making adequate calls and not watching, go bring it up to the tournament director or to the person running the scorekeep. Stop getting on the scorekeeper about a point that's not made every 5 seconds. If there's something the referees know well enough to stop the game, maybe you go and have somebody talk to the coach, say, Coach, have them to check the score. Coach can stop the game, say, hey, refs, we're concerned that the score is not adequate. A lot of times you're yelling at 12 and 13-year-old kids. And if you were that serious about keeping the score, why don't you go down there and volunteer or get paid to run the score? Stop yelling at people. Stop yelling about walks, double dribbles, carries. If you don't know what it is, sit your ass down and relax and enjoy the game, because I'm going to tell you what's coming. I've been saying it for a while. you are going to get in a situation to where they're going to start not allowing people to come to the games, and you're going to have to pay for an app to watch the game. That's not fun. I don't want to pay to go up there. Well, you know what? If you know that one of your teammates, mom or dad, a parent, is the one that's acting up, if you don't stand up to him and say, look, you're going to have to chill or your ass can't go. I'm not paying all of this money to go over there just to sit back and watch and get kicked out of a game and be thrown out of a tournament. So these tournaments, if you're running a Ghetto tournament, nobody's going to want to come back. You have to provide an experience to where win, lose, or draw, they had a good time. If you lost, it's usually because you lost to a better team. That's usually what happens. You don't get screwed out of 4 or 5 games. Yeah, maybe there can be a controversial call, leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But other than that, maybe it was just the referee didn't see what they needed to see. You can bring it up, and I get it. You want to move on. But sometimes I was told this once. Well, if you're worried about the score being that close, you need to win by a lot. If you blowing the team out, now I know it sounds easier than said, but hell, if you beating the team by 20, the referees don't factor. If you're superiorly better than that team, then you should beat that team comfortably, 10, 15, 20 points. If that team's just as good as you, you have to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a position where the referees can make a bad call that costs you the game. But Ghetto tournaments is kind of the term floating around. There are some tournaments that people don't want to go to now because of that. And I guarantee you have these college coaches that going. If people don't feel safe, they're not going to go. Think about it. When 9/11 hit, it took a while. The country was traumatized. It took a while for people. People might go someplace, but it took people a while to feel comfortable, to worry, not worry about if something was going to happen. When people started shooting at these movie theaters, you start seeing police officers at the movie theaters. Even now, you still can have a thing, but people start to feel, a little bit more comfortable. So I'm just wondering, how do you know? How do you know if a tournament's a good run tournament? To me, it's not too hard. You can check that website, look at the history of the tournament. You can find other teams that went, reach out to them and ask them. People from the same city tend to kind of go to the same tournaments at time to time. But if you go to another one, you look at the history. With social media, you can find out almost anything. With the internet and social media, you can find out a lot about what the history of that event was. Okay? But you got to put yourself in positions to where you're safe. If it's a poorly run event, you might be able to figure that out. Right now, it's kind of a rash of stuff, so even good tournaments are suffering from things. But I guarantee you, the really good tournaments, the people that run their stuff right, they're going to handle it. They're going to put stuff in place to where, we're not having that. If and when I ever get into that stuff, man, it's going to be so hard. I'm going to make it hard for you to act up because I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to be called a Ghetto tournament, So, yeah, it's a thing right now. And it's been a thing for a while, but now it's gotten to the point to where it's tired. People are tired. So somebody's going to have to step in, and it's going to have to be the league directors. You got to make sure you have adequate staff, adequate security, and you jump on things when it happens. All you got to do is this. You have people walking around, whether they're volunteers or staff, you have them walking around in the games. You have them checking with the scorekeeper. Hey, any shenanigans here? Anybody loud, being, more obnoxious? I don't care about people booing and cheering, but when you're telling other kids to hurt this person, don't let yourself, grab them or do this. When you're yelling at the coach and yelling disparaging things at the coach or the ref, what if the ref and the coach just turned around and started talking about you? Hey, old bald head fat lady, why don't you sit down and shut your ass up? If I can do a better job of coaching, but can you do something about your teeth and that mole on your nose? Nobody wants to have stuff turned on them. That's not how it is. So, if you have staff that walks around and just kind of lets people know, hey, man, we don't mind you cheering for your kids and stuff. But this other stuff, this language and stuff, it's not gonna happen. So you're gonna have to, tamper it down, or you're gonna leave. And if you're not gonna leave, then I'm gonna direct them to forfeit. You're gonna get kicked out of this tournament. Yep, you still don't want to leave? Okay, that's all right. We got law enforcement over there, and they're coming over to arrest you. They're not coming over to escort now because it's considered trespassing because we've asked you to leave. So now you're going to be escorted down in a squad car, and we're going to press charges. You start doing this kind of stuff, man, there's always going to be one that decides they want to do something because they can. Let them be the example. But these ghetto tournaments, they got to stop. Ghetto leagues too. Some leagues are ran the same way. But yeah, it's got to be put an end to it, because if not, change is going to be coming not the way people want. Okay, so now let me get into my training ideology. I'm going to go into a couple of subjects, so I won't be doing the basketball terminology today. But let me go into my first thing. I got a question for coaches. My question to you coaches is, do you coach with input or without input from players? Now, here's where I'm going. I was listening to a podcast. It was JJ Redick's podcast. And he had Grant Williams on. And they were talking about, Grant Williams with the Boston Celtics just did a signing trade. So he went from the Celtics to the Mavericks. And he was talking about how, things didn't work out as well with the Boston Celtics coach Mazzulla. He didn't throw him under the bus. He wasn't disparaging. He was respectful, but he was pointing out things that, that clearly bothered him, and how he was getting buried in the rotation and stuff, and how he felt he had earned, more of a rotational player's time. But this year it was different. Now he spoke to Joe Mazzulla's that he has a different philosophy and a different approach, which he understood, which is why he was, hey, it's going to probably be time for me to go ahead and leave, because, we're on two different pages with how you want your players and how you're going to do rotation, and what I'm anticipating going, it's not going to match. So it was it allows other players to now step up, and he gets an opportunity to shine where he's at. But what he did say did strike me, which is why I asked that question. He mentioned how, when he first got there, Brad Stevens was more analytical with his approach and stuff. He mentioned Ime Udoka, and he said that, how Ime Udoka was. And he said, look, if they had a scheme that they were running defensively or offensively, they would go with it. But if the players noticed something, they would tell the coach, hey, you know what? This isn't working the way, we want it to work. And he said Udoka would tell him, well, you're not playing hard enough. So then they would go back out there, and it's like, okay, well, we'll go harder. Now, if they go harder and it's still the same results, they would go back to him, and it'd be like, hey, it's still not working. And then they would say, look, instead of having him drop too low, how about having him drop a step and be ready to do this, and then we have this rotation going. And he said the coach was very open to that, and it led to great dialogue. It led to wrinkles and stuff like that. I think he said with Mazzulla, it was kind of this is kind of what I want to do. So some coaches don't have input from players. Some coaches have a lot of input with players. I'm just wondering, what kind of coach are you? And the reason I ask that is simple. If you don't have any input from players and you're always having things go wrong, maybe you should look at talking to the players and seeing what they can offer. Now, obviously, you don't want to talk to players that, have low IQ. They're just out there for self. They don't really care. You want to talk to the players that, you can tell they're engaged, they know what they're doing, they're very smart when it comes to basketball knowledge, and get their input, because sometimes I'm going to say a lot of times players would do certain things differently on the court, because when you're on the court you see it differently than on the side. Okay, so I'm just wondering, if you guys give input. Coaches, do you get input from your players, or do you not? I think if you don't, you should start a little. If you're running a play and say, hey, you guys see something, let me know. We might not change it, but at least the players feel like they're empowered. Now, if the players are always telling you something and you never change it, but what they're saying tends to be right, then you probably need to look at, altering what you're doing. Because if there are coaches out there that ain't won games. There are coaches out there that just they don't win. And if that's a coach that's out there, then you probably need to look and see what's going on. You can't be walking around like you walk on water if you ain't winning no games. Trust your players sometimes. See what your players say. Get the input. You never know. You can learn from stuff. You should always be wanting to learn. Anybody who doesn't want to learn, that's not somebody I want to be around, because they feel like they know it all. All right, so next thing I'm going to get into is it's in the same realm with the coaches. Okay, so what I've learned is, or that I'm still learning, I'm learning that some college coaches might not be qualified to coach. And I don't know if people say it's on the lower levels. I hear more bad things about bad experiences from kids that we train that go to certain schools. I don't hear it as much I know it's out there, but I don't hear it as much on the higher levels. I don't know if it's a lower level thing or higher. I don't know. All I'm basing this on is the feedback that I get. When my kids come back from the summer and they come in and look, I'll say I'm very appreciative to have a program to where when kids come here and they finish high school, they keep in touch. Whether it's coming for the summer to work, coming for the summer to work out, coming for the summer to ask me for help, if I, about working or job somewhere, either here or somewhere else. I feel very fortunate, to have created an environment to where I get that. So when the kids come back and I often ask them how the season's going and stuff, I have a player who's played under two different coaches. And the first coach, the season was trending the right way. They loved the way things were going. The coach was really good. There were issues, which you're going to expect in the coach's first year or so. But all in all, everything was going well. Now they get the new coach, and the new coach that comes in is apparently not organized, apparently is not disciplined, apparently has issues with communication issues. I'll just say communication issues, and it's made the whole experience rather miserable. And it makes me wonder, well, how does that coach get a job? How what is it that coach said in the interview that led you to believe that coach could take care of A, B, and C? Here's how you can tell. If after the end of a season you have a large number of players trying to transfer, enter in the portal now, to leave or quitting, and if you have staff looking to move on, that's usually an indication that maybe that coach isn't the right person for the job. Because obviously there's turnover. But when you have a really high turnover, like if you have assistants who've been with the program or been in different places for long stretches and everybody speaks glowingly about them, then they come here to this place, they're brought in, and then they last for a year and it's like, no, I got to go. This isn't working. That should be a red flag. If you got players who have been there for 3 or 4 years, well, not 3 or 4, 2 or 3 years, and they've been exemplary players, done everything, and then this new person comes and then they're trying to get out of there, that's a red flag. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to like everybody's philosophy. But usually if a player stays, it's because the coach usually says, look, We're going to try to do this, do this, do this. Usually if a coach is not like, hey, look, my offensive and defensive philosophy is completely different, you're probably not going to want to stay here because I'm going to get players that cater to that. So you know what? Let's just try to find you a home, right? Coaches do that. They're upfront. And I think you need to be upfront with players. But if you have communication issues, I was told that one coach, they don't even watch film. This is college. Okay, now let me rewind that. They watch film. They put the game on and they sit there. There's no stoppage. There's no time stamps. There's no corrections as to what. They put it on, let it play. At the end of the film, they go in practice. There's no dialogue. There's no accountability. Hey, you got to get over this screen. Hey, you're not getting back hard enough. Hey, look at you right here. You're not boxing out. You're watching. You need to face guard and box out. Let this person get the rebound. This is our system. Hey, you're not closing out. Hey, you're not helping the helper. Hey, you're not coming over that screen to where you're supposed to. You're doing too much dribbling or whatever. Whatever it is that, that you do when you're watching film. And I've went over film with kids before. So a lot of my kids understand what you're watching and how you're watching stuff when you're going over film. And to be told that this is what they do, so I have to actually watch film by myself to kind of understand things. That's crazy. That's crazy. Because here I am telling kids, you better get used to watching film because on the college level, this is what you're going to be doing on a regular basis. To then be told by various kids at various points of the years, over the years, that certain schools, no, we don't watch film. That's crazy. That's crazy, and that's kind of a thing. So, you should actually be looking at making sure of those things when you go to schools. And the bad thing is when if you lose a coach during your first or second year and a new coach comes, you can't be afraid to sit that coach down and look him in the eye and ask them really good questions. If that coach has no other college coach experience, unless that coach was a 5-time champion, high school and stuff, that might be a red flag. Now maybe they was assistant at some other colleges. You kind of know what it works. But if you're brand new, you used to work at Circuit City. I don't know. Circuit City doesn't exist anymore. If you used to work at Walmart or something, you was a manager at Walmart, there you're a head coach. You played a little ball in middle school and high school. You like the NBA or something. You like watching college. I don't think you're cut out to be a college coach. Maybe you should start as a grad assistant and stuff to make sure you know what you're doing. That's just me personally. Whether people find out, what you saying, but like, no. If my kid is going there, I don't want my child to waste a year behind somebody that don't know what they're doing. Obviously, it's going to be a struggle if it's your first year, but I don't want you wasting your year because this person doesn't know how to call plays. This person doesn't know how to get on a person's ass. If these two players are playing selfish and they're like, there should be no selfish play in college and a college system, because if I'm calling the plays, I know where the ball's supposed to go. And if you're not bringing that ball where it needs to go, especially if that person is open, we're going to have a problem. So if you're not doing that, you might not even know what plays you're running and why you're running them. So, yes, I didn't know it was a thing. I had my suspicions, but after hearing this year after year and players, some players moving to a different school or in college because of this, now obviously there are two sides to the story. But when you find out through the grapevine with other coaches about that coach, then that like, look, I don't pretend to say like I'm gonna believe my players like 100%, but I put faith in knowing that if I've been training a kid for 2 or 3 years, I tend to know that kid. I tend to know if that kid's gonna be truthful to me because I make them be truthful to me in practice. I have to get on kids' ass. I had to get on the kid's ass, but that I went and saw. And I watched. The kid wasn't upholding to the stuff that we were training. I said, look, it's pretty simple. You're not going to apply the stuff that we train in. Maybe this isn't for you. I'm not saying you got to go out and do all this, but you can't keep doing the same thing. Especially when we've talked about it. So I know the kid, right? It's almost like I'm a parent to the kid. You spend as much time as we do, you know the kids. So I don't see most of my kids coming back just telling me stories, knowing that if I know the coach, I reach out and call them. Coaches will reach out and call me. So it's weird how this dynamic is, and I hope it's a trend that doesn't last. And these ADs in these schools need to do a better job of vetting coaches that are coming in. That background is important. You don't have no IT guy that don't have no IT experience dealing with service and stuff. Don't have it in sports. Just because, I like the Lakers. I love the Lakers when they won the championship last year. Oh, no, that wasn't last year. They got to the Western Conference Final. Oh, okay. Yeah, bro. We thank you for your time. We're going to let you move on. Now, last thing I'm going to talk about is kids are having a hard time understanding how physical the game is. It really affects them. I do more work now with kids at certain parts of their playing careers, making sure they understand how defenders are into them physically. And a lot of kids get scared and they're not used to that contact, which blows my mind. Like, how can you not be used to the contact? Well, they're used to, the dribbling, there's some movement, you're playing defense and stuff. On defensive end, they're fine. It's the offensive end that they struggle with because of the fact that they're not used to having a person get up into them and play them physically. So it's a thing, and I have drills that I do specifically to work with the kids, and it's been really successful. Every time I've had a kid who's had an issue with it, when I've done these drills and shown them what they need to do, I think I would say probably 100%. I've never had a kid come back and say, well, I tried it and it didn't work. It worked, coach. Now it's this that happens once they do that. So it is important to make sure kids know that the game is not all comprised of highlights, fast breaks, and smooth moves. There's a large part of the game that you have to be tactical in your play. You can't be just, dribbling and making all these moves. No, you have to stand in the power dribble, hold that defender off, call that play, and get the ball where it needs to be. And some kids struggle with that. So I do a lot more of that than, not than I used to, because I've always done it, but I find myself doing it more and more and more and making it part of the regular curriculum, so I can get to them before they actually ask me. That way they know what's going on. So, that's it's amazing, and it's funny because sometimes I'll see it in some high level games. Sometimes you can tell when a kid is afraid. It shows in their body language. So, you just got to keep going through it, and you got to work at it in a way to be comfortable. It's uncomfortable, but you need to be uncomfortable so you can learn how to be comfortable. So that's all. That's going to be all for today. Not a very long one, but I just wanted to make sure I got some points. I got to get back to what I was doing, so I didn't have all the time that I would normally have. So I hope you enjoyed this. Next week we should be back on regular schedule with it, and I hope to have even more topics as well as bonus content. There will be no bonus content today. Sorry, Patreon subscribers. But yeah, we'll get back to the way we need to, and I'll have a 3-hour podcast. No, I ain't doing no damn 3-hour podcast, but I'll do a longer version. So I'm gonna leave it like I always do. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.